You have found the Behind the Lines podcast presented by BetMGM for the NFL week number 8. My name is Stephen Andress, managing editor at thelines.com, joined each and every week by Christian Cipollini, trading manager over at BetMGM. In this episode, we will look back at the week that was betting in week 7 in the NFL, the biggest public wins, the biggest public losses. We will also look ahead to the early week lines, spreads, and totals over at BetMGM for week number 8, and discuss where Christian has the top of the NFC at this point after the 49ers take another loss on Monday Night Football against the Vikings. Christian, we are nervous wrecks ahead of our Phillies playing in Game 7 as we record this on Tuesday morning, so we'll see how that goes, but we will try to be professionals and get through that and compartmentalize our emotional feelings right now.
Yeah.
How are you, though?
Stressed.
He's stressed. But it was a good day at your office over the weekend, that's for sure, it seems, because from what I understand, another really good week for the book and a really bad week for the public in week 7.
Yeah, well, I'm stressed. The book has not been for the last 2 weeks. Those were definitely the 2 best weeks that we had. The 1 o'clock slate must have tore everyone up because we got almost perfect outcomes. We were a Colts win away from a perfect 6-for-6 outcome, but all the games went our way. Even the Colts just covering. Everyone was on the Browns still there too. So yeah, it was definitely a bloodbath for the public this week.
And if you think 5-leg parlays pay well for the public, imagine what a 5-leg parlay pays for the book when they hit that. So congrats to the book. Please, not too much pain the rest of the season, sir. What were some of the biggest public losses? You mentioned 1 o'clock window. I assume some of these favorites that went down were part of it.
Yeah, the Patriots was obviously a big outcome there. Giants were good too. Bears, we were taking a ton of Raiders money.
Really?
Yeah, we were. I guess I was thinking the same thing because it's Brian Hoyer, but D2 quarterback on the team that's been awful the past 2 seasons. I guess had people trending towards Vegas, and that was one. We had like 75% of the money on Vegas. So
come on, man.
On Chicago.
All right, timeout. 30-second timeout. First day of NBA season. I'm taking a 30 for a public service announcement. People, what are you doing laying a field goal on the road with Josh McDaniels? You literally saw that the pride of Shepherd University in West Virginia, who played colleges that my dumbass high school friends went to, it like Bloomsburg and Slippery Rock and like Central Connecticut State and the University of Phoenix and the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Like, it doesn't matter. Josh McDaniels is a train wreck. He's still kicking field goals down 3 possessions late in the second half. Like, stop betting Josh McDaniels as a favorite, especially when Brian Hoyer is in the game. What are you doing? We have enough at this point to not do that. Please, for the love of God, just pick any other side that week. Never lay points with Josh McDaniels. I feel better.
There you go. Good advice.
Oh my God, man. That's shocking to me. All right. Well, was there any silver lining in week 7? Was there anything that at least got the public a few wins here?
Yeah, the 4 o'clock window was a lot better. Seattle and the Chiefs were the 2 that ended up being okay. And then definitely some people, we were a little bit mixed on Sunday night, but there was certainly a lot of people on the Eagles. So that one was okay. Last night, of course, was another great one for the book too. But Sunday night, 4 o'clock window, you were able to get a little bit back, hopefully.
Yeah, I will say this. The traditional, they call it the Wong teaser after Mr. Wong, who came up with it at Stanford and found it to be long-term profitable. The Wong teaser, when teasing down favorites through 7 and 3, have had a really tough stretch the past couple of weeks here, and I've certainly been a personal victim of it. Last week, the Eagles losing as a touchdown favorite. This week, both the Bills and the 49ers were bad teaser options. They go down outright and don't cover those teaser legs. So it seems, at least 7 weeks into the season, that teasing underdogs up in these very low total games is a better way to go than teasing these favorites down who have some injury issues. So I think the Bills and the 49ers in particular were great evidence for the novice bettors out there to keep an eye on the injury report, because It may not be the quarterback who's hurt, but when the left tackle and the number one wide receiver for the 49ers is down, that makes a difference. When the Bills are losing three of their most important defensive players and Josh Allen is banged up, that's important. Availability is the best ability you can have in the NFL. It's like a cliche that a bunch of coaches say in the NFL. The best ability you can have is availability. And as bettors, we need to pay attention to the injury report, maybe more than anything, before we start handicapping. So just keep that in mind. Okay, Christian, let's start looking ahead here to week number 8 and the spreads and totals over at BetMGM. And let's start with the aforementioned Bills, who have a Thursday night game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this one in Buffalo.
Yeah, they got to be right back at it after that tough loss. But they're 8.5-point favorites again, this time at home with a 42.5-point total.
And this moved a point, I think, in the past 24 hours. We're recording Tuesday morning right now, and there was that Baker Mayfield news that he did not practice on Monday. Ian Rappaport came out and said that it's not a concern. He's going to play. It was more just rest and maintenance. He was a little bit sore. But nevertheless, the line moved a point off of that, I believe, pretty much, right?
Yep. Yeah, started at 7.5. We're up to 8.5 now.
Okay, so I'm not laying more than a touchdown with the Bills right now, ever, with the way their defense looks, with the unknown and uncertainty with Josh Allen. It would only be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. I'm thinking about it. I haven't bet it yet. You can keep an eye on the lines.com Discord channel to see if either myself or anybody else on our staff is going to make a bet on this Thursday night game. Top right-hand corner of the homepage, you can find the icon and click on it. It's free to join. Let's move ahead here to Sunday now, Christian, and the early 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoffs for Week 8.
Yeah, Rams at Cowboys. Cowboys are 6.5-point favorites at home, 45.5-point total. Vikings Packers. This one is a pick'em right now. We have the Vikings as slightly the favorite there at -1, but on the money line we're at a pick'em. And that total is 43. Falcons Titans. Falcons are 2.5-point favorites on the road with a 36.5-point total. One of the lowest of the week. There's a lot of low totals this week too. Saints at Colts. Colts are 1-point favorites with a 43.5-point total. Patriots Dolphins. Dolphins are 9.5-point favorites at home with a 47-point total. Jets Giants. Jets are 3-point road favorites with a 36.5-point total. Eagles Commanders. Eagles are 6.5-point favorites on the road with a 43.5-point total. And the last one of the 1 o'clocks, Texans Panthers. Texans are 3-point favorites on the road with a 43-point total.
Two games in this window with totals of 36.5, basically, with Atlanta and Tennessee and the New York teams. Like, why don't we just trot Army Navy out there and play them instead? Like, it's basically what this has devolved into in the NFL. We have all these rules that are supposed to help offenses. And Christian, in my opinion, this league has a quarterback problem right now because it's the rules aren't helping, and we have totals lower than we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, unders are on, I don't know the exact numbers, but unders are flying under this entire season. It's been an under season. And, I mean, you see it in the totals. Like last week, I think there was 2 totals, maybe 3 over 44.5. And it's similar this week that we barely – I mean, last few seasons ago, I feel like we had tons of totals in the 50s, and we've barely seen any over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I need to – look into this, talk to some other people that are smarter than me. I think it's a combination not just of the quarterback play, but also the increase of too high safety looks that our defenses are content to just take away any explosive plays by, if you want to throw it deep, you're throwing it into double coverage with safety help. So I think that's part of it as well here. I do want to ask you about just the Minnesota Vikings after what we saw on Monday Night Football against the 49ers. And you said this game's basically a pick 'em right now at BetMGM. On the look-ahead line, the Vikings were +2.5. So it seems like a combination of both you as the odds makers and the market and the sharp bettors have decided if we take home field advantage away, we need to bump the Vikings back up to being better than the Green Bay Packers at this point, which would at least, at minimum by estimations, make them a league average team to slightly above average, which is not what we've seen from the Vikings rating the past couple of weeks after they lost Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, there was even talks that they'd be getting close to shutting it down and trading Kirk, but they've kind of resurged. This one, though, is a little bit of a combo of both. The Packers, pretty much, you're mandatory to go down in points if you lose to the Broncos. So combo. The Vikings looked good, the Packers looked bad, so that kind of brought this in a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, there's that offense for the Vikings is without a doubt good. I mean, they've showed this over the season. It's the defense that's kind of had question marks, and they've lost close games. Last season, they won almost every game that was close, and this season, it's been the opposite. So,
And Monday night, they get the turnovers to go their way instead of completely
yeah,
against them like we saw the first month of the season. They pull off the upset. And don't look now, the Vikings right now would be the number 8 team in the NFC. Top 7 get in, obviously. And you're still getting a pretty good price, pretty good plus money price if you want to bet the Vikings to make the playoffs. Their schedule is about as easy as, teams like the Saints and the Falcons the rest of the way. They still do have 2 games on the schedule late in the season against Detroit, but it's quite possible that Week 18 game against Detroit, they're going to sit everybody. So that might only be one game against Detroit starters. The rest of the schedule, over the next month here, at the Packers this week, at Atlanta versus New Orleans. Those 2 games against those 2 NFC South teams are going to be huge for potential tiebreakers for the wild card for whoever doesn't win the NFC South between those 2 teams most likely. And still have a game against the Bears, still have a game against the Raiders. 2 games left against the Packers, actually. This is a very manageable schedule now for the Vikings after they start 3-4 and lose games to the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Chargers to start the year. Really opens up now for them. So I might be looking at some midseason futures here on the Vikings just to play this upswing. And we don't know when Justin Jefferson comes back. It's probably another month before he comes back if the initial reports of 6 weeks were correct. But they get him late in the season as well. This is wheels up for potentially getting a wild card spot for Minnesota. So just wanted to mention that as well. Okay, Christian, late window, 4 o'clock Eastern time kickoffs here in Week 8.
yeah. Seahawks Browns. Seahawks are 3-point home favorites with a 40-point total. Chiefs Broncos. Chiefs are 7.5-point favorites on the road with a 45.5-point total. Ravens Cardinals. Ravens are 8.5-point road favorites with a 44-point total. And the last of the 4 o'clocks, Bengals 49ers, where 49ers are 5.5-point home favorites with a 45.5-point total.
My esteemed colleague Eli Hershkovich has a bet in the Chiefs Broncos game. You can go listen to the Beat the Closing Number podcast to see how he sees this one breaking down. After a couple of weeks ago, the Broncos were 10.5, 11-point road underdogs to the Chiefs, this time flipping home field, and we're just a little over a touchdown now at this point. This San Francisco line, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what the Bengals are. I've been skeptical of them despite the couple of wins they've had. They haven't really been all that impressive, but the 49ers, you saw what that offense looks like when they're not at full health. So we'll see if Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel plays. Mo Nawara on our staff made an interesting point that maybe you just play alt lines on this game because if the Niners don't look healthy again, then maybe just the Bengals win outright. And if they are healthy, maybe they win by 2 touchdowns. So we'll kind of see how that goes on that one. But let's move ahead here to the primetime window, Christian, Sunday night and Monday night football in Week 8.
Yeah, they're killing us here. We got two tough ones. Bears at Chargers. Chargers are 8.5-point favorites at home. 46.5-point total on Sunday night. And then Monday night is Raiders Lions, where Lions are 7.5-point home favorites with a 45-point total.
This is a primetime window that the schedule makers made beginning of the year when everybody bought Chicago into being potentially a spunky dark horse wild card team. And the Raiders, well, they still have, Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams. Maybe they'll be competitive too. No, we have a couple of stinkers here with big touchdown favorites here. I do have concerns, though, about the Chargers. I did bet the Bears on the look ahead plus 10.5 here. It's still over a touchdown. Mo actually came back and just bet minus 8.5 on the Chargers. So he has a different opinion than me. You can, again, go listen to Beat the Closing Number to hear his opinion on that if you would like. I just think something's off with the Chargers offense. I don't buy it. I don't think this is a top 10 offense that everybody thought it would be. And obviously we know their defense isn't all that great either. So the Bears quietly over the past 3 weeks. Now I know they haven't played a tough schedule over the past 3 weeks, but over the past 3 weeks, the Bears defense is number 3 in the NFL in success rate allowed. That's really impressive. Obviously, they've played a very easy schedule, so maybe they're not that good, but they're healthy and they're playing a lot better than what we saw in September. And I think we need to account for that. And for me, at this point, never betting the Chargers to win by more than a touchdown with what we've seen. Detroit's playing on Monday night, Christian. So let's wrap things up here with a quick comment on the state of the NFC, because I took some bonus bets over at BetMGM and fired Lions Super Bowl futures after the loss to the Baltimore Ravens. And I did that for really two reasons. Number one, if you look at the Lions schedule, it is easy. Raiders, Chargers, 2 games left against the Bears, 2 games left against the Vikings. They have a Green Bay game in there, Denver, and then their toughest game is going to be Week 17 at Dallas. The second reason I fired it is because if you look at the quarterbacks in the NFC, there is no Mahomes, there is no Burrow, there is no Lamar Jackson. You can go further down the list. There is no Trevor Lawrence. There is no Justin Herbert. It's Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, and Jared Goff. So I think the NFC is even more wide open than what we thought it was, especially if the 49ers are going to be banged up. Now, there's a long time between now and the end of the year, but the path for the Lions to get the number 1 seed is wide open. So that's the bet I have. But the question I want to ask you is, after the Niners took another loss, I know they're still among the favorites in Super Bowl futures. That's in part because of the money that's already in the market. But right now, for this week only, who are you power rating as the number 1 team in the NFC?
So, yeah, the book and me will have two different opinions on here. The book is still having the 49ers slightly ahead of the Eagles, and then it goes Cowboys, and then a little bit later is the Lions, and then it drops off a bit from there. A lot of that goes with, who will get the number 1 seed is what we're talking about here. So the 49ers are still favorite there. For us, I mean, the way, obviously, sometimes we can be a bit reactionary, but it's really neck and neck, I'd say, between the Eagles and the 49ers. This week, I think the Eagles obviously look better, but things change and the 49ers could look better. So for this week, I'd go Eagles, 49ers, I guess Cowboys, but that hurts Lions. But yeah, close. I'm 100% with you in that I think it all comes down to who can get the 1 seed. And the Lions do have a good case to be able to get there, as you just pointed out. I know the 49ers and the Eagles both have a pretty hard schedule ahead of them. So, yeah, if that path gets there, I don't have the exact numbers on what happens when you get the number 1 seed, but most of the time you end up in the Super Bowl. It's so significant to have that bye and home field advantage. And a lot of times that one and back when there was 1 and 2 seeds got a bye, one of those teams would end up in the Super Bowl most of the time. So it is really significant, and the NFC will probably come down to who's the 1 seed.
And I would argue even more significant if the Lions were to get it, because of what we've seen with Jared Goff's indoor versus outdoor splits when he's playing outdoors on the road, especially in January with potentially cold and wind, versus what we've seen of him now on 2 different teams playing inside in the dome in perfect conditions. So that's part of the handicap for me too. Last check, I saw the Lions were 9-1 to earn the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think that might have adjusted since the 49ers lost on Monday night. So, but they still are most likely going to be the third choice behind the Eagles and the 49ers. For those out there thinking about making that bet, if there is a tie in record at the end of the year, the Lions don't play the Eagles or the 49ers this year. So the tiebreaker would then become conference record. The Niners have 1 loss in the conference. The Eagles have not lost in the conference. And the Lions have 1 loss in the conference to Seattle. So keep that in mind as we go. The Eagles and Niners, one of those teams is going to take another conference loss because they play each other in Week 13. Going to be maybe the game of the year. But I agree with your opinion, Christian, over the book still, that I think the Eagles are slightly ahead of the 49ers, especially if the 49ers are going to have some banged up offensive pieces. But the gap down to the Lions is not very big, and the price is right for me, and that's why I fired some Super Bowl futures with those bonus bets. So,
yeah, I'd say the gap is less so than the book is having it. I would say at the moment, at least in my opinion, there. I think they definitely have a better chance than we're projecting them, I guess, at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And if they do get the number 1 seed, there is no gap, in my opinion. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be a really interesting race in the NFC the rest of the way. It's going to be a complete bloodbath in the AFC. I mean, it's probably the Chiefs still, but everybody looks really good there of the top 4 or 5 teams. So I think AFC is probably the favorite in the Super Bowl, whoever gets there, but the NFC is going to be interesting just because it's so wide open. Christian, as always, thank you so much for the insight, the behind the scenes look from the book, and also your personal opinion on some of these things. It's really insightful, really helpful for the audience each and every week. And for those of you out there, let us know in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, who do you like this week in week 8? How do you see the landscape of the NFC? Have you fired any Super Bowl futures or awards bets the rest of the way here? And any questions you have, I'd be happy to check out the comments middle of this week and answer some of those as well for you if you would like. For Christian Cipollini, I'm Stephen Andress. Thanks for watching Behind the Lines, presented by BetMGM.